Happy day, sisters. Welcome to Come Sis With Me, the podcast, a movement fueled by the heart of women with a desire to experience genuine community that uplifts, empowers, and strengthens one another on one common hood, sisterhood. I'm your host, Mia, relationship counselor, coach, minister, and your sisterhood connoisseur. Join me as we walk through my honest conversations on all things sisterhood, womanhood, and whatever other hood comes up, with a goal of knowing that through it all, you got this, sis. Welcome back to Come Sis With Me, the podcast. We are in the month of April. This is the first episode for the month of April, and we're still in the Womanhood series. And I just have been loving the content that is coming out. I had two amazing guests that were just awesome, and the information that they shared and their wisdom. It was just so motivating and encouraging, and I'm just excited about what we got from it. So this is the month of April, and the month of April is wild. It has like 4 or 5 different awareness opportunities for us. One of them is Stress Awareness Month, which I thought was really important for us to bring light to. It also includes Infertility Awareness Week. It is not Infertility Awareness Month, but it has the week of infertility awareness included in it. It's National Siblings Day. This is also Diversity Month, so we'll talk about that later in the month. But it also includes World Health Day, which, coming off of March, where we were celebrating women at such a high level, I thought it was really important for us to talk about health and our womanhood, and specifically how sisterhood is responsible for how we maintain our health and our womanhood. So today I want to talk about our overall health, which includes emotional health, physical health, and our spiritual health, and why those things are important. There's so many facets to being a woman. But one of the things that I think we miss often is how important our overall health is. Sometimes we just focus on one or none, right? And truly, in my kind of research and preparing for this episode, I realized how much of a responsibility it is for us to uphold our health, not just because it's your health, right? But as women, no one else is going to fight for us the way that we fight for ourselves. It is our responsibility. And in order for us to carry out the purpose and the calling and the assignments on many of our lives, it requires a level of preparation and discipline and obedience and submission and even sacrifice in our lives for our wellness, our spiritual, our emotional, and our physical wellness to be taken care of. There's so many risk factors in being a woman. And so I wanted to talk about that today. It's really important for us to talk about it, for us to bring some awareness to it in our lives. I know it's a buzzword in the streets right now, specifically because of a very prominent influencer who lost her life due to a misdiagnosis of cervical cancer, which, if you know anything about cancers, especially in women, that is one of the cancers, many cancers, that is treatable if caught in an early enough time, right? And so what's the most disheartening and saddening part of her story is that she did see a doctor, and there was an opportunity for her diagnosis to be made in a good enough time for her to potentially still be with us today, and that did not take place. So yeah, there's things like that. The overarching theme that you could take away from this podcast today, from this episode, is that we need each other. Is that that we need each other to hold each other accountable for our health, to promote our health, our wellness with one another, and that women know women. And so we need each other to know and recognize, hey, I see something's going on in you and with you. Maybe you don't see it because there's so many other things. I'm definitely going to cry and get emotional today because it's just what I do. But let's talk about it. So, three different facets to our overall health. There is emotional health, there is physical health, there's spiritual health. And I want to start with our emotional health. Not a surprise, right? That our emotional health has risks. And one of the greatest risks to our emotional health is depression. I don't think we talk about it enough because we just assume, like, oh, it's just such a natural thing that you will be depressed or that you can be depressed, right? And we just kind of toss it out there like it's nothing. Oh, you're depressed. It's fine. You'll get over it. It's not fine, actually. And the really sad part of this is women are more likely than men to experience depression in their lifetime. Now, that shouldn't be a surprise to us, right? We're the nurturers, we're the caregivers. We tend to be the ones that ensure that everyone else around us is taken care of. We are the ones that also carry other humans inside of us, right? A complete human body is formed and created and then uh carried within us. So that's double the hormones, that's double the biological structure that we were created with. That's also double the feelings, right? Little babies feel, we also feel, mamas feel. So we're dealing with that. But the piece of this that kind of like pierced me to my soul was the part of depression that can stem from something completely outside of biology alone. So biology being like poor sleep, or our hormones, weight gain, menopause, stressful life situations, like how our bodies naturally respond to those, our biological bodies respond to those experiences. But outside of the biology alone, life circumstances and cultural stressors can play a role too, right? So, and these stressors also occur in men, but at a much lower rate. Why? Because the factors that increase the risk of depression in women are tend to be due to the unequal power and status that women hold in our society. Women are more likely than men to live in poverty. Women are more likely than men to carry some uncertainty about their future and to have a decreased access to community and healthcare resources. Guys, that burdens my heart so much that we have a decreased access to community a lot of times. And how sisterhood, that just a genuine, authentic caring for other women could decrease that factor exponentially. We also deal with a lower self-esteem and a lack of control over life. Why? Because we are seen as a weaker and lesser sex in society, in the world, actually. But also, majority of the time, carry the majority of the workload. We're talking about women who work outside of the home and still handle the home responsibilities. We just talked about the balance in womanhood and how my previous guest, Shantae, handles juggling being a mother, a wife, a C-suite exec, a ministry leader, and also a sister and just woman overall, right? We deal with so many challenges. Women, mothers, oftentimes are the default parent, a term that I just recently learned is a thing from my good friend Tiara on Mommy on the Move podcast, that women are carrying the weight, not only at work, but in their homes. Right? They're caring for the children. They're caring for sick or elderly family members, caring for their husbands or their spouses. And on top of that, right, women are more likely to be the subject of abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, or even sexual abuse. Women are more likely than men to experience these things. So when we talk about one of the biggest health factors in emotional health being depression, no, it isn't just, oh, you're just depressed. You'll get over it. This is a epidemic for women. And one of the ways that sisterhood could absolutely help with that is providing support, right? Letting women know, other women in your lives, that one, they're not alone. The depression causes like this overwhelming feeling. And it's not just simply treated with um, medication or it'll just go away. Loneliness and the benefit of having relationships help increase and affect your mental and overall well-being, right? Depression, low self-esteem, anxiety, those things affect your immune system. And the benefit of having a strong relationship, the benefit of sisterhood, quality connections with other women is that you don't feel lonely and isolated, and that your connection, that strength within the connection, provides you a safe place for you to improve on the quality of life that you have. Those social connections are good for your health. That's the bottom line, right? That's how sisterhood helps. And as a woman, you're able to acknowledge, right? You're going to be carrying some of the same weight that your sister is carrying. So you can apply some sort of knowledge to this, some sort of wisdom. Hey, we're not in this alone. We're doing this together, right? Maybe I don't necessarily understand exactly what you're going through, but right? I understand the emotional part of what you're going through, the emotional weight of what you're carrying right now, because I have also carried something very similar in emotional weight. Also, when we're talking about just emotional health and overall the way that sisterhood helps or can help is holding us accountable, right? Holding us accountable to putting us first. One of the things that I teach to my clients is, hey, if you aren't in this equation whatsoever, how are you going to effectively carry out the things that need to be done for everyone else who's counting on you? Seriously, what would happen if you're not okay? If you're sick, how does your household run? If you're unwell, how long is it reasonable for us to assume that you're going to be able to carry out the workload that you have if you're not well emotionally, right? I talk about the relationship between Naomi and Ruth a lot in my spiritual counseling, but it's actually a really good story about how someone is willing to hold on to hope until you can hold on to it for yourself. Ruth noticed that Naomi was struggling mentally, probably because they had a relationship with one another. They were in relationship with one another, not just from a daughter-in-law, mother-in-law situation, but in sisterhood. Woman to woman, I'm walking out, navigating life with you day to day, and I can see how you were this way at one point in your life, and now you're another way. Something's wrong. Something's not well with you. And for Ruth, she knew exactly what it was. Now, for some of us, we may not know what that thing is that our sister is dealing with, but we can absolutely say to her, hey, I'll hold on to hope for you until you can hold on to it for yourself. I don't want you to continue walking in this loneliness or this isolation or buckling under the emotional weight that you're carrying when I can absolutely offer you some of this hope that I'm carrying, that I have in my hand. I can help you with that. Let me help you with that. Ruth's words to Naomi, I don't think we really understand the underpinnings of this, but she's not telling her, "Hey, I'll go with you. I'll go where you go. Your God will be my God," just to say, I understand the blessings that will come from me doing this. She's being a sister and she's recognizing that it is much better to be in relationship with someone than to be separated and then have to figure out these really hard things by myself. Ruth didn't think she was gonna go get Boaz. She was thinking, I don't want to do this alone. I listen, I don't want to. She probably was looking at Naomi thinking, I don't want to end up like you in this deep depressive, like hopelessness, right? And I got a little bit of hope. So I'm gonna hold on to this little bit of hope and I'm gonna hold on to it with you because you're my person. Like we've gone through these things together. We've gone through the death of our husbands together. And I think that we have something that we can emotionally connect on that I can help you get through. So I'm going to hold on to this little bit of hope for both of us. Okay. And I'm also going to hold on to you. I'm going to go where you go because I think that at some point in time, Naomi probably was a really good influence and probably hope carrier for Ruth. Okay. That's just my behind the scenes commentary. Don't take that and run with it. And make that your theology. That is Mia's take on it. The greatest risk factor to women's physical health is heart disease. I mean, does that come as a surprise to any of us? Our hearts are huge and they carry the weight of so many things. We are naturally the caregivers and the nurturers of life. It makes sense that our hearts would be affected most, 3 times more likely than men to experience some sort of heart disease. The sad part about this is, sisters, women, is that there is a extreme health gap between men and women. And so even though heart disease is a more prevalent factor for women than it is for men, we die from it more because we are less likely to be diagnosed. In addition to heart attacks, endometriosis and autism are also physical health concerns that are less likely to be diagnosed in women. And this is because of their deep-rooted inequalities that lead to women being underdiagnosed, undertreated, and underserved. That's insane. That's insane. We need to care about one another more than what we do. We need to influence men to care about us more. We need to influence society to care about us more. I did a study and I found that in 2014, the greatest risk to a woman's life, not just health, life, was intimate partner violence. 1 in 3 women were murdered at the hand of their domestic partner in 2014. That was the #1 cause of women dying in 2014, in addition to these other things like heart disease. But intimate partner violence is disheartening that women are dying at the hands of partners who they trusted and loved. Women know women. We know when there is something off. We know when, something's not tracking right in your life. And we, a lot of times, many times, right, just ignore those things. How many times have you looked at your sister and knew that something was off and you just didn't say anything? Maybe because you got your own things going on, right? Or because it just was uncomfortable. But this is the beauty of sisterhood, is that we can be uncomfortable together. There's some really hard things that our sisters are going through. And we need to encourage one another to speak out against the really hard things, the really hard stuff. We need to have hard conversations. We need to learn how beneficial it is to hold one another accountable in the difficult things. It's really easy. It's fun to hold each other accountable when we're working on like our goals. Yeah, girl, we got goals. Even in weight loss. I'm on this whole hot girl summer kick, and one of my sisters shared with me last year that she started a weight loss treatment drug, and like she was very vulnerable with me, but she said one of the reasons why she didn't tell me earlier on was because she was worried about my response, like how I was going to judge her for using this weight loss method. And I was just like, wow, in many ways that we think it's okay to judge others for their choices, and instead what we're doing is putting ourselves in places where we're really hard to talk to. We're not going to have genuine, authentic, vulnerable, transparent conversations because we're worried about the other person judging us. That's sad. Strong, healthy relationships strengthen our immune systems. They help us recover from disease. They even can lengthen your lives. But it's not just because of the emotional aspect of healthy relationships. It's because when you have healthy relationships, you tend to have healthy communication. You tend to talk more. You tend to share more things about yourself that need to be healed, right? And so there's an ability for wisdom and knowledge to be shared. The greatest risk to a lot of our health issues, right? A lot of those risk factors could be simply dissolved if we had good communication, right? If we decided, hey, you know what? I'm not going to ignore the hard things. I'm going to have a really hard conversation with you. I know it may be tough. We may be mad at each other. It's okay. But I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die alone. I don't want you to die because the thing that you thought was just like a little pain in your side was okay. That it's okay for you to bleed for 20 to 30 days out of the month. That's okay. No, no. Those are hard conversations, and even maybe very private conversations, but we should be having them. We should be having them. I feel like I'm yelling at you guys. I'm sorry. Because it stresses me out that our sisters are dying or they're struggling under the weight of pressures, specifically in their health, because they just decided to deal with it on their own, or they didn't feel empowered enough to advocate for themselves when they go to the doctor. I've had so many women who I've heard over the last couple of weeks and months, even after the death of our sister due to a misdiagnosis of cervical cancer. Let's call it what it is. That, hey, the doctor told me this is what it is, and I just got to deal with it. And I'm like, you don't just have to deal with it. You don't just have to go to a specialist. Go to 5, 6 specialists if you need to, right? Do not allow someone's answer at the end of the day to be enough for you if it isn't enough for you. And any sort of reproductive concern in women is highly, highly misdiagnosed and underserved. Why? Because the reproductive system of a woman, even though we think we know the ins and outs of it, the ovaries, the cervix, the fallopian tubes, all of the things that go into it, the medical profession, the medical world actually has a very limited knowledge on how it works and the diseases that affect it and how to treat them. The healthcare providers don't have a great handle on how to treat and diagnose, especially in Black women, the reproductive system of women. So you're going to a doctor and you're like, hey, this is my concern. And they're like, oh, it's probably endometriosis. Oh, it's probably fibroids, or it's probably this. Okay, probably and what it is are two different things. Okay. Probably is because of years of history books that one were written by men, and most of them white men, right? That say this is the diagnosis to this symptom and this is how you treat it. Instead of running tests that are specific and unique to my body, your body, right? Don't base what you're diagnosing me off of 10 other women that you spoke of. Look at me as an individual and diagnose me. Okay. The greatest risk to women's spiritual health is identity, a lack of knowledge or awareness of who you are. And who is best to help us with knowing who we are? Outside of God, it is other women. Other women show us the beauty of being a woman. They help us affirm our identities and our womanhood. A lot of times, our issue with identity comes from a lack of confidence in ourselves, a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-esteem, insecurities that result in behaviors that show a real sense of threat from other women. Like we're threatened by other women, when honestly, other women help us really understand who we are, who we can be. Affirmations reminding a sister of who she is outside of those job titles, outside of the role as mom or wife or provider or ministry leader or whatever, right? Especially in times of financial hardships, conflicts in relationships, transitions in jobs and homes, like that confusion that takes place in there. The affirmations that my sister provides to me helps me weed through the confusion about who I am. A lot of times our identities get locked into the things that we have, like our financial status, our marital status, or our single status, or whatever status we hold, right? And those things are temporary. Those things don't really showcase who we are. Other women are able to affirm who we are through those relationships, through community. Hey, you're powerful. You're a warrior. Sis, you can do anything. And you could do it well. And you could do it at an excellent level. There's no confusion about who you are. Don't allow this conflict or this hardship or this transition to knock you off of the rightful place in which you stand. A sisterhood promotes confidence. Genuine sisterhood promotes confidence. Promotes a self-worth that men and society can't tear down. That conflicts and relationships, divorce, even death can't dismiss who you are. I love the story of the women in the Bible, specifically Deborah. The story of Deborah shows how a woman is able to carry double the load, and still be a boss, right? And I wonder if she had other women around her, or, maybe in community or maybe in her neighborhood or, just somewhere that reminded her of this on a daily basis, right? That we can be women who break cycles of bondages and weaknesses in our family. We can be spiritual refuge for our families. We can have healthy marriages and healthy homes and success in the marketplace, depending on how you define success. We can do all of those things, have center stage in warfare, and be fully woman. We don't have to take on the role of a man at all, right? We can identify as women. There's no one else that can help you do that more than another woman. Sisterhood helps celebrate one another. I really loved, first of all, I didn't even go here. I should have went here earlier, but We just came off a high of celebrating women in March. March Madness was insane, but the women's basketball was top, like just superior and exciting. I'm just overwhelmed with how amazing it was. But I saw the after game press release of Flage and Angel Reese. And I really love how someone asked Flage a question about Angel, and she was just like, "You guys don't know the weight that my sister carries. The crown is heavy." And she took up for her sister. She was like, "I'm gonna celebrate her right now because y'all forget how to celebrate people sometimes. You forget how to celebrate women. You see women's responses and their passion and their behavior sometimes, and you immediately discount them as that being their identity. I'm here to tell you that my sister's identity is this. It's not what you're imposing on her. That is what sisterhood looks like. It's celebrating your sister and her identity, because sometimes in those moments where someone is telling you or discounting you, you start to believe it. In that moment, you have a lapse in judgment, right? And it's really hard to remember, knowledge wise, know wise, right? And have an awareness of who you are in that moment when someone is trying to discount you or even dictate who you are based off of a behavior or a response to an experience. And we forget. And her sister was right there to say, no, 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 no. Sis, fix your crown. That's not who you are. We know who you are. Maybe these people don't know because they don't know you, but I know who you are. I see you. And her sharing that, I mean, I cried. Of course I wept. And it just proves how beneficial we are to one another. We need each other. So I'm going to go back to the original thing that I said at the beginning. We need one another. And our health, the healthiness of our womanhood actually depends on the healthiness of our sisterhood. Our sisterhood helps us navigate the factors in our emotional, physical, and our spiritual health, and they help promote wellness. It helps promote wellness overall. I want to encourage you in your sisterhood. I want to encourage you in three ways, specifically in your connections with other women. I want to encourage you to seek intimate connections, relational connections, and collective connections. I want you to seek out people who love and care for you, such as family and friends, and build on those connections. I want you to seek out people who you see on a regular basis and share interests with, such as like your work mates or those who you see on your way to work, right? Maybe they serve you at a restaurant you go to or your coffee in the morning. Seek out those relational connections with them, build on those things. And then I also want you to become more aware of the people who you share a membership or an affiliation with. That could be like your church family or people who are in your community group. Maybe you're on an HOA, right? Are people who share the same, I don't know, voting status as you, right? Look into those connections. And specifically with women, obviously, I don't want you to come. We're talking about sisterhood, sis. Because whether you realize it or not, it's all around you. And one of the things that I hear most from women is that I don't know how to connect with other women, or I'm scared. I'm just simply scared. So start in these three places. Start with the people who you love and care for, right? Intimately. The people who you see regularly and share interests with relationally. Like if I work with you, maybe let's try to get along, right? Let's try to figure out how this could be something else. And then collective connections, people who you share a group membership or affiliation with. People who share the same faith as you, right? Or anything that collectively you guys can agree on. And start there. All right? Because a healthy you results in a healthy me and a healthy us. And we need each other, sis. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you. And if you don't already know, sis, you got this. If you enjoyed this episode of Come Sis with Me, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the extraordinary power of women and the bond of sisterhood. Until then, you got this, sis.